Welcome everybody. We are discussing the chapter Morphology of Flowering Plants. We have already discussed up to the inflorescence in our previous 4 sessions, and today we are going to discuss the most important topic of this chapter, that is the flower. Because the flower is the reproductive part, and because of the flower only the generation is continued. The plant generation is continued, and this flower gives rise to the other reproductive part, that is seed and fruit. Let us start our discussion with flower. So what is flower? Flower is a specialized branch of limited growth which bears floral leaves. So what are floral leaves? I have told you in my previous session that in flower the sporophylls are arranged in different manner. So flower is nothing but the arrangement of the sporophylls, which we have studied in our previous group of plants like gymnosperm, bryophytes and pteridophytes, where the sporophylls are containing the sexual organs. So here the sporophylls are arranged, and these sporophylls are called floral leaves, and they help in sexual reproduction, and they give rise to the other two reproductive parts, that is seeds and fruits. Now the study of flower is called anthology, and at the base of the flower there is a leaf like structure that is called bract. Rather we can say the part from where the flower arises is called bract. So first the bract develops, then from the axil of the bract the flower is developed. And the flower is developed on a stalk that is called pedicel, and the pedicel at its terminal part is conical and swollen, and that portion is called thalamus or receptacle. And in a typical complete flower there are 4 types of floral leaves. From outer to inner they are sepal, petal, stamen and carpel. So this is a typical angiospermic flower. So as I said that the flower has a stalk, that stalk is called pedicel, and this pedicel, with the help of this pedicel it is attached to the stem. Now this part is the terminal part of the pedicel. Here you can see this terminal part is swollen, and this swollen part is called receptacle or thalamus. And what is the function of thalamus? This is the part from where the floral leaves are developed. Floral leaves means sepal, petal, stamens and carpels are developed. So this is the thalamus. Then let us discuss the floral leaves. The outermost floral leaves, which are usually green in color, are called sepal, and the group of sepal is called calyx. Then inner to the sepal, the floral leaves, which are usually brightly colored in most of the flower and very large, that is called petal. And the group of petal or all the petals of a flower together known as corolla. Okay. And what is the function of petal? Petal helps in pollination by attracting the insects by its bright color. And what is the function of sepal? The sepal protects the flower bud. When the flower is not fully developed or bloomed, the bud is there, the bud is totally covered by the sepal. Then inner to the petal, the next floral leaves are the stamens. So here you can see these are the stamens, and each stamen consists of filament and anther. And all the stamens together constitute the male reproductive part, that is androecium. Okay, so this is the male reproductive part that produces the male gamete. Then the innermost floral leaf is the carpel. So which is present at the center, you can see. These carpels together. So in some flower only one carpel is present, in some flower more than one carpels are present. So when more than one carpels are present, then all the carpels together constitute the gynoecium or female reproductive part of the flower, and its function is to produce the female gamete. Okay, so a flower has two types of part. One is vegetative part, other is reproductive part. The vegetative whole or vegetative leaves are the sepal and petal, which directly do not participate in the process of reproduction, but indirectly they are helpful in the process of reproduction, whether by protecting the birds or by attracting the insects for pollination. Then the reproductive part of the flower are the stamens and the carpels, which also constitute the androecium and gynoecium respectively, which are the main reproductive part of the flower, which produces the male and female gamete respectively. Now we'll discuss some of the terminologies or different types of flower basing on the arrangement of the floral leaves. So basing on the arrangement of the floral leaves, the flower may be cyclic flower or acyclic or spiral flower. So here you can see in this picture, this is the floral diagram of a particular flower which I have given here. So floral diagram is the graphical representation or pictorial representation of the floral leaves, arrangement of the floral leaves. So here in this case, in the first case, you can see it is a cyclic flower. Why it is called cyclic? Because here the outermost whole is constituted by the sepals. So here you can observe that below the sepal or inner to the sepal, the petals are present, but the sepal and petals are present alternately. The petals are not present exactly below the or exactly just below the sepals. So here you can see this is sepal, then petal, then sepal, then petal, sepal, petal, sepal, petal. In this way alternately they are arranged. And if the floral leaves are arranged in this way, alternate to each other, then such type of flower is called cyclic flower. But in contrary, you can see in acyclic flower, this is the sepal. Just below the sepal, the petal is present. Okay. So here the sepal, then below it the petals are present. So they are not present alternate to each other. So such type of flower is called acyclic flower. There is another type of acyclic flower. This is called spirocyclic flower. So here you can see the floral holes, that is especially the corolla or the petals are arranged spirally. So here it is very much clear in case of rose, and such type of flowers are called spirocyclic flower. Now basing on the symmetry, the flowers are of three types. When the flower can be divided into two equal halves in any vertical plane, then that flower is called actinomorphic flower, or the symmetry is called radial symmetrical. And such flowers are also called regular flower, and they are seen in case of mustard, China rose, datura, chili and many other flowers. And there is another type of symmetry which is called bilateral symmetry or zygomorphic. So here the flower can be divided into two equal halves only in one vertical plane. Then there are certain flowers in which there is no symmetry at all. They are asymmetrical flower. That means the flower cannot be divided into two equal halves from any plane. Okay. So let me show you the picture. So here you can see the first flower is actinomorphic flower. That means radially symmetrical flower. The symmetry is radial symmetry. The flower can be divided into two equal halves in any vertical plane. Okay. Now here in zygomorphic, or bilateral symmetry, you can see the flower can be divided into two equal halves in only one vertical plane. Then this is the asymmetric flower of Kanna. Here you can see the flower has no definite symmetry and the flower cannot be divided into two equal halves in any vertical plane. Then the internode in the flowers. As I have told you that the flower is nothing but the arrangement of the floral leaves. So definitely there is the presence of node from where the floral leaves are developed, and in between the floral leaves some gap is there, and that gap is known as internode. So the internodes are described here. First is anthophore. Anthophore means the internode between calyx and corolla. Androphore means internode between corolla and androsium. Gynophore means the internode between androsium and gynosium. Gynandrophore or androgynophore means when there is androphore and gynophore. That means internode between corolla and androsium is there, and androsium and gynosium is also there. So let me show you the picture so that it will be very much clear to you. So here you can see in the gynophore, the gap is present or internode is present between the gynosium or the carpel and the stamen. Okay, androsium and gynosium. So it is called gynophore. Then in androphore, you can see the gap is present between the corolla and the calyx, corolla and the stamen. So this is the printing mistake is there. This is actually androgynophore and this is gynophore. This is androphore and this is androgynophore. So in androphore, you can see that this is corolla and this is the androsium. So in between the androsium and the corolla, the internode is present. Okay, and this is called androphore. Remember children, this is androphore. This is not androgynophore. So this picture I have taken from the Google. So it is a printing mistake is there. So this is a androphore between the corolla and the androsium. Then androgynophore. This picture is androgynophore. This is not androphore. Androgynophore means there are two internodes between the corolla and the androsium as well as between the androsium and the gynosium. Here it is very much clear. So there are two internodes. Then next you can see that anthophore. Anthophore means the internode is present between the carpels, between the that is calyx and corolla, that is sepal and petal. Okay. Then carpophore means sometimes what happens, there are many carpels. So when there is gap between the carpels, then that is called carpophore. Then now depending upon the development of the floral leaf from the thalamus, the flower may be of different types, that may be hypogynous, epigynous or perigynous. So hypogynous condition, what is hypogynous condition? When petal, sepal, stamens are situated below the ovary. Hypogynous, hypo means below, gynous means gynosium. Gynosium means the carpel. It consists of the carpel. So here you can see this is the gynosium. So the gynosium is present above and all other floral leaves are developed below the gynosium or the ovary. This is the ovary of the gynosium or carpel. So here you can see the sepal, petal and stamen all are developed from below the ovary. And such type of condition is called hypogynous condition. The flower is called hypogynous flower. The next is perigynous flower. So here The thalamus develops upwardly up to certain height. Then it forms a cup-shaped structure. So here you can see it is forming a cup-shaped structure. This is thalamus, and here is the pedicel is attached to this. So this thalamus is cup-shaped structure. It grows up to certain height, that is maybe half of the or certain height of the ovary. Then the floral leaves like the corolla, calyx and the stamens are developed. Okay, so here this cup-shaped structure is called hypanthodium. This is generally it is the in case of the inflorescence hypanthodium it is seen. So here it is called perigynous because the thalamus develops up to certain height of the ovary, and after that the floral holes are developed, that is calyx, corolla and stamens are developed. That means it is half inferior or half superior, you can see. Okay, so such type of condition is called perigynous. The next epigynous. Epi means above the gynosium. That means when the sepal, petal and stamens are present above the ovary. So here you can see the thalamus completely develops up to the top of the ovary, or it completely covers the ovary. The ovary is present inside the thalamus. Then from the topmost part of the thalamus that is present above the ovary, the sepal, petal and stamens are developed. Okay, so this is called epi. Epi means above, gynous means gynosium, and the most important part of the gynosium is the ovary. So since the floral holes are developed above the ovary or the gynosium, that's why they are called epigynous. Then bract. The flower which arises from the axil of the bract. I have told you the bract is nothing but a leaf. The leaf from whose axis the flower is developed. That leaf is called bract. So, but in all flowers the bract is not present. The flower in which the bract is present, then that flower is called bracteate flower, and if bract is absent, then that is called ebracteate flower. Sometimes the bract forms a hole, that means they are arranged in a cyclic way or they are arranged in a circle, and that is called involucre. This is generally present in the inflorescence where a number of flowers are there and the bract of all the flowers are forming a whole, and that is called involucre. In my previous session I have told you about the involucre. Then when the bract is very large and it covers the whole inflorescence, then the bract is called spathe, as it is seen in case of spadix inflorescence, that is banana. Okay, then when the bract is very large and brightly colored and it performs the function of the petal, then it is called petaloid bract. Okay, but in some cases like grass family, the bracts are very small, dry and scaly. They are called glooms. So here you can see different types of bract. Here you can see this is foliaceous bract. So this is the flower developed from it. Okay, so here is the flower. You can see the flower is developed from the bract, and here you can see the bract is very large and leaf-like flattened green structure. So it is called foliaceous bract. Then here you can see this is the tuft of flower or bunch of flower or the inflorescence present inside, and the whole bract is very big and it covers the whole inflorescence, and this is called spathe. Such type of bract is called spathe. Okay. Then here you can see here the bract. So these are the bract. Okay. The bract are very large and colorful. They are brightly colored to attract the insect. They are just like the petals. So they are called petaloid bract. Then next you can see here it is involucre. So this involucre you can see in case of marigold, tagetes. So these leaf-like structures which are present here, which forms a cup-shaped structure around the group of flower or the inflorescence, is called involucre. Okay, it forms a cup-shaped structure, then it is called involucre. Then in some flower, they are just like a scaly structure, non-green, and they are very reduced in size. They are called scaly bract. Then besides this scaly bract, there is another type of bract which is seen in case of grass family, wheat, grass, and Oryza sativa, that is paddy. These scaly bracts are very much reduced in size and they are restricted only to the base of the flower. They are called glue. Okay, so only one bract is this bract is present, and that bract here you can see the bract are of differently sized and they are present in different hole. So this is the outermost hole of the bract, then this is the innermost hole of the bract, and they are called glue. Okay, in some flowers like hibiscus or China rose, here is the bract. This is the bract of the flower, but at the top of the pedicel, the bracts are forming a hole, and that is called apicalyx. Okay. So, the parts of flower, a typical flower has four main parts, that is calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium. The individual units of calyx is called sepal, corolla is called petal, androecium is called stamen or microsporophyll. The gynoecium is the fourth hole or the fourth main part, that is the individual units are called carpels or megasporophyll. Okay, the calyx and corolla are helping or the accessory holes, and androecium and gynoecium are the reproductive hole. As I have told you, the calyx and corolla are also known as vegetative holes. So here you can see different parts, the different holes of the flower. So here you can see this is a flower. If this is a flower, then you can see the outermost hole is the calyx. The individual units are the sepals. Then the corolla, individual units are the petals. Then androecium, the individual units are the stamens. Then gynoecium, the individual unit is carpel. Here more clearly a colorful diagram is there. This is the flower. So this is the thalamus. From the thalamus, the calyx, the individual members are sepal. Then these are the petals, corolla. Then androecium consists of the stamens. Then gynoecium consists of the carpel or pistil. Now let us discuss each floral hole in details. The outermost hole of the flower is called the calyx, and each member is called sepal. So when these sepals are fused with one another, then that condition is called gamosepalous. When they are free, that is called polysepalous. So here you can see the sepals. These are the sepals. You can see the sepals are attached to one another. Okay, and they are forming a cup-like structure. So this is called gamosepalous condition. Okay, the next is polysepalous. So here you can see the sepals are not attached to each other completely. So they are not forming a cup-shaped structure. This is called polysepalous, means free sepals, and this is gamo means fused sepals. Then we'll discuss some of the modification of the calyx. The calyx are also modified for different functions. The normal function is to protect the bud, but besides that they also perform other functions like protection, attracting the insects. Okay. So in case of Trappa, calyx is modified into spines, so it provides protection to the fruit. That means the calyx persists till the formation of the fruit, and even it persists along with the fruit and it provides protection to the fruit. In Argemon, the spines, the calyx are modified into spines, and they also protect the flower bud, not the fruit. They don't remain up to the formation of the fruit or along with the fruit. In larkspur and balsam, the posterior part of the sepal is modified into narrow tube. This structure is called sepal spur. So narrow tube, and sometimes it attracts the insect, and the insect gets a place to lay eggs inside it, and it secretes nectar also. So the insects are attracted towards this. Then in case of some flower like sunflower, tagetes, marigold, the sepals are modified into hairy structures, that is called pappus, which helps in dispersal of the fruit. Okay. So here you can see the different modification of the calyx. So first one is pappus. So here you can see these are all calyx. These white structures are calyx, and these calyx or the sepals are modified into hair-like structures. Okay, then spurred. Spurred means when the calyx is modified into tube-like structure. So here you can see the calyx is colorful and it is modified into a tube-like structure which stores the nectar and it attracts the insect. Okay. Then here you can see petaloid calyx. So here you can see the calyx. These are the calyx. These colorful structures are calyx. Big, colorful, like the petals, and they also attract the insect. This is called petaloid calyx. Then hooded. So here you can see the hood type calyx are there, just like the hood. They provide protection to the bud, as well as the insect also get a place to lay the eggs here. Then I was talking about the spinous, or the uh, modification of the calyx into the spine. So here you can see the whole thing is the calyx. The calyx is modified into spine, which provides protection to the fruit. Now the duration of the calyx. So in some plant, the sepal fall just at the time of opening of the flower. So as soon as the bud starts blooming, the sepal falls off. And such type of calyx are called caducous sepals, as in case of poppy. And in some plant, the sepal falls after pollination. That is called deciduous. And in some plant, the sepal persists up to the fruit formation, and even it persists along with the fruit. You might have observed in tomato and in datura, the sepals are present along with the fruit. So here you can see this is caducous. So you can see this is the bud. In the bud, the whole bud is covered by the calyx or the sepals. But see, in the flower there is no calyx. So as soon as the bud blooms into a flower, the calyx are fallen off. Then you can see deciduous. So here you can see the buds, these buds are having the calyx. The flower, the young flowers are having the calyx, but as soon as the pollination takes place, the calyx falls down. So here we can see in the older flower there is no calyx. Now in persistent, here you can see it is in case of brinjal, the calyx is persisting along with the fruit. So this is called persistent sepals. Then the apicalyx, I have already told you about the apicalyx. Here is the picture of apicalyx. So below the calyx, a hole similar to sepal is present. That is at the tip of the pedicel. Okay, so they form a hole. So this is the calyx. The bigger hole is calyx, and this smaller hole is called apicalyx. Epi means below, calyx. So below the calyx, they are forming a hole. So they are known as apicalyx. This is present in case of China rose. Then the next floral hole, which is present inner to the calyx, is the corolla. The individual units are the petals. Usually the corolla are brightly colored and they are larger in size to attract the insect for pollination, and they also protect the inner most essential part, that is androecium and gynoecium, from injury. Okay. So similarly, calyx, if the petals are free, then that is known as polypetalous. If the petals are fused, then that is known as gamopetalous. So here you can see, this is, here the petals are fused, not fused. They are free. They are not attached to one another. So this is called free petals, that is polypetalous. But here you can see the petals are fused to form a bell-shaped structure. Okay, so this condition is called gamopetalous. Then estivation, the arrangement of the sepals or petals in the floral bud with respect to the other member of the same whole is known as estivation. That means in a corolla, the arrangement of the petals is called estivation. Okay, so here we'll discuss different types of estivation. Estivation is of four types. Basically, it is of four types. Valvate. First one is valvate. So here the petals of a whole lies adjacent to other petal, and they just touches. Okay. So here I'll show you the picture. So this is valvate. Here you can see these petals are not overlapping. Okay. They are not overlapping. They are present at the same level. Okay, so here the diagram is more clear. The next come to the other one is twisted. So here one part of the petal covers the petal of the adjacent petal. So here you can see the one side of petal covers the other petal. So like this they are forming a twisted structure. So such type of arrangement is called twisted. So here it is very much clear. So these pictures are very much helpful for your floral diagram, drawing the floral diagram. So while discussing the family, plant family, we have to draw the floral diagram. At that time it is very much helpful. So children, please try to understand what is the estivation of what arrangement of the corolla in the estivation. So here you can see one side of the corolla is above, one side is below, one side above, one side below, one side above, one side below. In this way the adjacent corolla are overlapped by each other. Then the next type of estivation is imbricate. In case of imbricate, one of the let me show you the picture so that it will be clear to you. So this is imbricate. In imbricate you can see one of the sepal is completely inner. Okay, that means both the side of the petal are inner, are overlapped, and one of the petal is completely outer. So here you can see one is completely inner, one is completely outer, and others are outer inner. That means one side is inner, one side is outer. Okay. So this is called imbricate. So if this one, the structure, that is the innermost petal, is present at the top, then it is called ascending imbricate, and if it is present below, then it is called descending imbricate. So here I have described it. So ascending imbricate, The posterior petal is innermost and both its margin are overlapped. Descending imbricate, this is seen in case of maxillary estivation, otherwise called as maxillary estivation. So this maxillary estivation, you can see here the outermost is at the top, okay, and the innermost is below and other one is outer inner. So this is called maxillary or descending imbricate. Okay. The third type of estivation is quincunциal. So it is the modification of imbricate type. Out of the 5 petals, 2 are completely internal, 2 completely external, and the remaining petal is 1 internal and 1 external. So here you can see these 2 are completely external, these 2 are completely internal, and 1 is external and internal. Okay. So these are the estivation, very very important. Estivation means the arrangement of the petals in the floral hole. It may be valvate, twisted, imbricate. Imbricate is of two types, ascending imbricate and descending imbricate. In ascending imbricate, the innermost petal is present towards the posterior part, or you can see it is above, and in the descending imbricate, the innermost petal is present below. Okay. So here are the arrangement of the flowers. Then there are certain flowers in which you cannot differentiate the calyx and corolla. Okay. So here you can see the flower. Here you cannot identify which one is calyx and which one is corolla. Both are equal sized, both are equally colored. So in such case, the floral hole is called perianth. Very very important. The floral hole in which the petal and sepals or calyx and corolla are not differentiated is called perianth, and the individual unit of perianth is called tepal. Okay, so these individuals are called tepals. Okay, so here you can see that I have given two pictures. So here you can see that in one flower which is present on the left side, all are colorful structures. So this is petaloid tepal, because petals are usually colorful. So this is petaloid tepals. But here you can see all the floral leaves are green in color. So this is called sepaloid tepals. That means they are sepal like green in color. Okay. So here you can see the difference between the perianth and the calyx and corolla. So this is the flower where the calyx and corolla are distinguished. The corolla is blue in color, the calyx is green in color. But here you can see that the calyx and corolla are not distinguished. So in this flower, all the floral holes are blue in color. That is, calyx and corolla are blue in color. So they are not distinguished. So this is called perianth, and individual units are called tepals. And this is called petaloid because all the members are petal-like. So it is petaloid perianth. But in this case, you can see all the leaves are, or calyx and corolla, which are not differentiated and they are green in color. So they are called the sepaloid perianth. Okay. And here you can see the perianth is vestigial. That means it is reduced or it is absent. Only stamen, or the, here you can see only one stamen, one carpel is present. Here only stamens are present. Here only carpel is present. Then the next part, the most important part of the flower, the male and female reproductive organ. So we'll discuss the male reproductive part of the flower, that is androecium. The individual units of the androecium is called stamen, and The stamen consists of, here you can see this is the structure of a stamen. The stamen consists of a filament, the stalk is filament, and then there is a anther at its stalk. So this anther consists of two lobes. So here you can see this is the structure of anther. The section is taken here. So this is one lobe, this is another lobe, and each lobe contains the pollen sac inside which the pollen grains are produced. Okay. In some cases, the stamens are sterile and undeveloped, and such stamens are called staminodes. Okay, so here you can see the stamens are very much reduced. So these are the stamens. They are not having the anther, only the filament is present. So they are sterile. They cannot produce the male gamete even though they are present in the flower. So such type of stamens are called staminode. Then types of androecium according to the length of the filament. In different flower, the length of the filament of the stamen is different, and basing on that, the flower is of the stamens are of two types, didynamous and tetradynamous. In didynamous condition, 4 stamens are present, and out of these 2 are long and 2 are short. In tetradynamous, 6 stamens are there and they are arranged in 2 holes, out of which 2 are short and 4 are long. 4 are inner which are long and 2 are short which are outer. Okay, so here you can see the picture. This is didynamous condition. In this flower you can see the stamens, 4 stamens are present. Out of 4, 2 are short and 2 are long. Okay. Then here in tetradynamous condition you can see 6 stamens are there, out of which 2 outermost are short and 4 innermost are long. Such condition is called tetradynamous. The cohesion of stamen. What is cohesion? Cohesion means the attraction, the force of attraction between the similar molecule. Same type of molecule is called cohesion. So here the cohesion means the attachment between the members of the same whole. That means the attachment of the stamens with one another. So basing on this, the stamens when in an androecium are free. They are not attached to one another, not fused with one another, then that is called polyandrous condition. Very, very important. And when the stamens are united, joined, then that is called adelphous condition. So joined means what? Their filaments are joined, but the anthers are free. Then that is called adelphous. Okay, or adelphi. They are forming a bundle. Okay, so this cohesion of stamen is different types. Monadelphous. So when all the stamens are bundled together, or the filament of all the stamens are forming a single bundle but the anthers are free, then that is called monadelphous. This is seen in case of cotton, your hibiscus, lady's finger, or as a whole it is the characteristic feature of Malvaceae family. Then diadelphous. So here the stamens are forming two bundles. So this is seen in case of family Fabaceae, where 10 stamens are present, out of which 9 stamens are fused to form a single bundle and 1 is free. So out of 10, 9 are forming a bundle and 1 is free. So here you can see in the picture. So this is a single stamen. So in monadelphous condition, you can see that all the stamens filament filament of all the stamens are fused to form a single bundle. So I have told you adelphos means forming bundle. Monadelphos means single bundle, but the anthers are free. In diadelphos, you can see 10 stamens are there. Out of 10, 9 are fused together to form a single bundle, but the anthers are free and 1 is free. So 9 plus 1 condition is present. Then another condition is polydelphous. Here the stamens are fused to form more than 2 bundles. So here you can see the stamens are fused to form more than 2 bundles, but the anthers are free. This is called polydelphous. Okay. Then we'll discuss some other condition, that is synandrous. When anther as well as filament of stamens are fused. So here you can see both anther and filament. Anther, these are the anthers are fused and filaments are fused. So it is synandrous. Okay. Then another condition is syngenesis. Syngenesis means the anthers are fused but filaments are free. That condition is called syngenesis. Okay. Then gynandrous. Gynandrous means when the androsium or the stamens are attached to the carpels, then that is called gynandrous. Okay, but that gynandrous is not coming under the cohesion. This comes under adhesion. So under cohesion, what are the condition? Monadelphous, diadelphous, polydelphous, syngenesis and synandrous. Okay, monadelphous means forming single bond, single bundle, diadelphous one bundle and one free, polydelphous many bundles, and in all these three cases the anthers are free, filaments are fused. In synandrous, both filament and anthers are fused. In syngenesis, the anthers are fused and filaments are free. So here is the description of all the conditions which I have already described in the picture. Now, adhesion of the stamen. In some flower, the stamens are attached to the other floral holes like corolla or the androecium or to the perianth. So, this is called adhesion. Okay. So, this adhesion of stamens are of different types. Epipetalous means stamens are attached to the petals. Okay. So, here you can see the stamens are attached to the petal. This is a petal and here you can see this is the bigger one is the petal and here is the stamen. Okay. The stamen is attached to this one. Okay. So, that's why it is known as epipetalous. Then in gynandrous, the gynoecium and androecium, this here the gynoecium and androecium are fused to form a single bundle. This is called gynandrous stamen. And when the stamens are attached to the perianth, that means where the sepals and petals are not distinguished or differentiated and the stamens are attached to the tepals or perianth, then that is known as epiphyllous. So these three terms are very, very important. So here I have given the description: epipetalous, epiphyllous and gynandrous. Epipetalous means attached to the petal, epiphyllous means attached to the tepals, gynandrous means attached to the gynoecium or the carpels. Now next part is the gynoecium. It is the female reproductive part of the flower and it is the inner essential whole of the flower consisting of the carpels. The individual units are the carpels. Each carpel consists of three major parts, that is stigma which receives the pollen grain. Then the stalk which is a tubular structure that is called style. Then the basal swollen structure is called ovary. So here in this structure you can see this is the structure of a single carpel. So this is the stalk, style and this is the flattened structure, stigma, and this is the swollen structure, ovary. Now condition of the gynoecium. Like the androecium, the gynoecium are also arranged. They may be fused or they may be free. or the styles may be free, and in the ovary part is fused. So basing on that, the gynosium may be monocarpellary, polycarpellary, or syncarpous. So if one carpel is present in the gynosium, then that condition is called monocarpellary. If more than one carpel is present, then that is called polycarpellary. Okay. And if all the carpels in polycarpellary condition are free, when more than one carpels are present but they are not fused, they are free, then that is called apocarpus. But if the carpels are fused together, then that is called syncarpus. So here you can see how the carpels are fused, and when the carpels are fused, then what is the structure of the ovary. So here you can see this is monocarpus, means single carpel is present. Okay. Then here you can see there are more than one carpel. So here you can see 3 carpels are there. But these 3 carpels are not fused with one another. They are free. Such condition is called apocarpus. So in the ovary, 3 locules are there. 3 chambers are there. And these 3 chambers are not attached with one another. They are not fused with one another. And they are having the ovules. So this is the upper part and this is the ovarian part. Okay. So here the carpels are not fused, so it is called apocarpus. But here you can see this is polycarpellary. That means many carpels are present, but here the carpels are fused. But in some cases the ovary is fused. In some cases the style is fused. In some cases both style and stigma are fused. So in such cases you can see that this is the first condition where the ovarian part is only fused. So here 3 carpels are there, so the ovary has 3 chamber, 3 locules. Okay. So this is syncarpus. Then in the other case you can see 3 carpels are there. Their style is fused and the ovarian part is also fused. So ovary has 3 chambered. Okay. But the stigma part is free. Okay. But here in this case, in this picture, you can see the whole, all the 3 carpels are completely fused. So this is also syncarpus. So in the ovary, 3 chambers are there. So whatever may be the case, in case of syncarpus condition, in the ovary, the number of chamber corresponds to the number of carpels present. Then the next important feature is the placentation. The ovules are present inside the ovary which develops into the seed. So the ovules are attached to the ovary wall with the help of a cushions like structure that is called placenta. Okay. And the arrangement of placenta in the ovary is called placentation. So actually the placenta bears the ovule and the arrangement of the placenta along with the ovule is called placentation, and this arrangement is there in the ovary. So the different types of placentations are, first is marginal placentation. So here the placentation is found in monocarpellary gynosium. So children, here you have to remember in which type of flower, which type of placentation is present, or what is the condition of the gynosium. Okay. So remember in marginal placentation, the gynosium is monocarpellary and the placenta develops along the junction of 2 fused margin. Okay. So here you can see this is marginal placentation. Okay. So this is monocarpellary. How can you know that it is monocarpellary? Because the ovary is having only one chamber. And this is the margin of the inner margin of the ovary, the margin wall of the ovary, and the ovule is present here along with the placenta. So this is called marginal placentation. Next is parietal placentation. This type of placentation is found in unilocular syncarpous ovary. So here the carpels are more than one, they are fused, but what is the exception? The ovarian chambers are not corresponding to the number of carpel. The ovary is having a single chamber or single locule inside which the ovules are present. Okay, so let us see the picture. So this is as I said you, this is your parietal placentation. So here you can see as the picture shows, there are three carpels. 1, 2, 3 carpels are there. So it is syncarpous because the ovarian part is fused. But the ovary is not divided into chambers. And ovules are developed from the wall of the ovary. So here you can see 3 sets of ovules are there. So the 3 sets of ovule corresponds to each of the carpel. So this is you can say it is a tricarpellary syncarpous because the ovarian part is fused, so it is syncarpous. And here clearly it shows that 3 carpels are present because the ovules are arranged, or the placenta is arranged in 3 positions in the ovary. Next, axile placentation. This is seen in case of multicarpellary syncarpous gynoecium, and the fusing margin of the carpel grows inward to meet the center, and axis is formed. Okay, so let me show you the picture. So this is axial placentation. So what is the difference between these two, parietal and axile? In parietal also you here can see this is syncarpous. This is also syncarpous, polycarpellary. Okay, but here the margin of the ovarian wall extends up to the center, and at the center it forms a axis. But such structure is not present in the parietal placentation. So that's why there is clear distinction in the chamber of the ovary, and in the 3 chamber the ovules are arranged and they are attached to they are developed from the axis of the ovary. So this is called axile placentation. Okay. Then the next type of placentation is precentral. So this type of placentation is found in syncarpous gynoecium, where the ovary is unilocular and ovules are born on the axis in the center of the ovary. Actually, this type of placentation is axile placentation in the beginning, but after some times the wall of the chambers are destroyed and only ovulated central axis is left. Let us see the picture. So this is you can see this is precentral. Okay, so you can compare this precentral with the axile placentation because it has been developed from the axile placentation only. So in axile placentation these septal walls are there. So here also initially the septal walls are there. That's why the axis is formed. The ovules are developed from the axis, but later on the septal walls are destroyed. So that's why the ovules that is developed from the axis are not separated from each other, okay, by the septal wall. So it is called precentral placentation. Okay, then other type of placentation is superficial. So this is also called laminar placentation. This type of placentation is found in a multicarpellary or polycarpellary syncarpous gynoecium. The ovules are attached on the wall of the loculi. So here you can see. So this is the axis of the ovary. Here 3 carpels are present which are fused. 3 locules are present, but The ovules are attached to the wall of the locule. So these are the chambers. So to the wall of the chambers, these ovules are attached. Okay. So this is called superficial or laminar placentation. The other type of placentation is basal placentation, where the ovary is unilocular and a single ovule is present at the base of the ovary. So here you can see this is the basal placentation. So only one ovary is present. It is unilocular. Generally the flower is maybe monocarpellary or polycarpellary, but the ovary is having only one locus. Okay, and here you can see from the base of the ovarian wall the ovule is developed. So it is called basal placentation. And another placentation is apical placentation. This is also having a single locule. The carpel may be many, but locule of the ovary is one, but the ovule is developed from the apical part of the ovary. So these are the different types of placentation. So this structure of a flower, the description of flower was little bit complex, but even though I have tried it to make uh, you understand very easily, I hope it is easier to you to understand. The main thing is that you have to understand the terms and the conditions of flower, under what condition the particular name is given to the flower. If only you will remember all these terms and all these conditions, then only you can describe a family or identify a plant family. Otherwise it is not possible for you. That's why children, please go through the video again and again to clarify your concept and clarify your doubts, and that's all. And our next topic will be seed and fruit and some of the plant family. We'll discuss in our next session. So thank you for watching my video till end. So again, I request you to watch this particular video again and again. Okay. Thank you once again.